Welcome back. Tahrir Square, the place that is now not only recognized as the cradle of the January 25th revolution, but also recognized in Egypt and among the whole world as a center that attracts many now rising Egyptian political factions, political movements, and people from different walks of life, human rights activists, and people who are interested in the welfare of this country. Come to Tahrir Square. They gather and they share their interests and information. And the square became now a political exhibition that shows many rising political parties. And from one of the movements that are currently present now in Tahrir Square is the Revolution Youth Union. And we have with us from this movement two human rights activists, Ayman, Noor Ayman and Rana Farouk. Good morning. They are the official spokespeople of this movement. Good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, if I may provide a quick correction,
sure,
I'm not part of the union. I'm not part of the union. Only Ms. Rana is part of the union.
You're the spokeswoman?
Revolution Youth Union, yeah.
Okay, so you are the spokeswoman and he's a human rights activist.
Yeah.
Okay, and right now we're going to see a quick report that is will update us on what's happening in Tahrir Square.
I'm sorry I interrupted.
Revolution Fridays have been marked by protests. This Friday is different to any other because it is called the Last Warning Friday. Protesters have said that there will be consequences if their demands are not met. In Tahrir Square, there are 4 different stages calling for different demands.
I'm obviously here so things will change and to get rid of injustice done to the people. For instance, I'm one of the people working in the health sector for 25 years, since 1980. Until today, I get paid £508. I have a family with 4 kids. How are we supposed to live on them? I'm here today because of all of the Egyptian people's demands, not because of personal demands. This is because the Egyptian people will not accept control or demands from anyone. The revolution took place, but the government does not seem to realize that a revolution has taken place.
Some of the demands they have voiced were quick trials to the old regime, a civil body to run the country during the transitional phase, reform within the police apparatus and state media. In fact, people at the square didn't want to allow state media cameras. We managed to get in, but were eventually kicked out of the square in fear of our safety. They were hostile towards us because of the way state media covered the revolution.
As long as there's corruption and the martyrs have yet to get the rights, also as long as there are thugs that come into Tahrir Square sent by the government and the National Democratic Party, we are not leaving. We want an elected civil body to rule us during the transitional phase. We don't feel like there's any change in the country. Things are just the same. All they did is beautify the image of the situation in the country. For instance, in the Ministry of Petroleum, there is still corruption, and it still works with the bribe system.
Because there are 4 different stages, it was clear that people at the square didn't share the same set of demands. What was clear was that people who took to the stage were inflaming the situation even more than it already is.
Although the mood in Tahrir Square is festive, the message here is very serious. They're calling this Friday the Last Warning Friday, meaning if their demands are not met, they will go into full-fledged civil disobedience until they are. This is Raham Morsi reporting for Nile International.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with the first topic of today's breakfast show. Now we're talking about the situation in Tahrir, and we are joined by 2 people who were actually there. They've been there throughout the 18 days, and they're still there. They're still sitting in, and they're still protesting up until now. Now, Rana and Noor, you've both been through the journey. It's an 18-day revolution, and it's not really over yet, and still a lot of demands have not been met. A lot of demands have not really been even looked at. And it's been a journey with lots of highs, lots of lows, lots of happy moments and a lot of disappointments. Just can you please give us a quick brief on this journey? What have been the highlights? What have been the downers for both of you? Let's start off with Ron.
First, we start on 25 January. And it was like a surprise because I'm start from Mustafa Mahmoud Mosque, and it was like first in the first 10 minutes it was like 300, and then became a 3,000, and then we have walking to Tahrir Square, and we became a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise because we didn't expect it, this people how to participate in revolution, and the shock for me, it was in 28th, in the anger day, because it was a lot of blood and a lot of martyrs, and I was in the hospital Medani in Tahrir Square, and I saw a lot of people, and I carry a lot of martyrs people on my hands. So it was for me. I can forget it, and until now we feel like our revolution. We didn't expect. We not much. Well, not we were expecting from this revolution. We still don't have fair trials. We still don't have martyrs' revenge. So we still strike and we still protest until we have all our all we asking for in the 25th revolution. We hope so.
All right, Noor Ayman, my question is for you now. You are a human rights activist and you do not belong to any movement, political movement, although you are insisting with a group with you to stay in the square. I want you to explain to the people the importance behind your insistence and persistence to stay and complete and continue until your demands could be acquired by the other end.
You see, just to start off, I just need to clarify something, that we are constantly asked, why are you still in the square? Like, I mean, it's time to go home. And actually, I wish we could have gone home. I come from a very politically active family, so I've been in the scene for many years. And I had this false, childish impression that maybe after Mubarak left, I can finally relax, that we're going to go into a new phase in Egypt where we will start to begin achieving justice and ending corruption. And 6 months later, we're still in the exact same place, if not in a worse place, where we removed the old form of injustice and we replaced it with new injustice. That's the reason why we're back in Tahrir Square, because we're all very realistic people. We're not expecting 30 years of corruption and oppression to immediately disappear like overnight. But at the same time, we expect that at least in 6 months, we see some positive, at least any positive steps towards achieving the demands that were set forth on the 25th of January. The fact that we have not seen any positive steps towards achieving these demands, I'm not talking about superficial steps such as removing Mubarak, and yes, that is a superficial steps. We're not talking about cosmetic changes. We're talking about crucial steps towards achieving our demands. We have not seen any of these steps, and this is why we are back in Tahrir 6 months later.
Well, Noor, a lot of these things, as you've said, a lot of these reforms are superficial reforms. Now, what would be, what is an actual substantial difference that you would like to see? Now, we hear of like a reshuffling within a government, and we're probably going to see a whole lot of reshuffles, and probably people will be pleased with some of the names being put forward, and some people would definitely be against it, and then people would still continue the sit-ins and still have the demonstrations. A lot of people want to see the prosecution of the government officials and the people responsible for the martyrs. Now, substantially, what is the real difference that you can actually think, you know, now it's starting to happen, now it's taking place?
Let's just, firstly, we must clarify something. The demands, the unified demands of the square are actually very clear, very basic, and lots of them are the exact same demands from the 25th of January. Firstly, one of these demands, and most importantly, is ending military trials for civilians and retrying the tens of thousands of civilians that have been subjected to military trials over the last 6 months. The second demand is setting a minimum wage of £1,200 with a specific time plan. We're not saying it's going to be achieved overnight, but with a specific time plan, a realistic time plan, not the 5 years time plan that was proposed about 2 months ago. The third demand is for public trials of the ex-public figures who sent Egypt down the drain. The fourth demand is clearly restructuring the police force and returning security back into the streets. And obviously the fifth demand is providing compensation for the families of martyrs and those who were injured during the revolution. These are very, very basic demands, and in almost all of them, we have not seen any positive steps being taken over the last 6 months. Yes, over the last week, we saw a positive step in the field of the public trials of these officials when they came out and they said, okay, you know, 6 months later, we are now going to put screens in front of the courtrooms so that you can see what happens inside. So this could be considered as a small positive step, but it's still cosmetic. Now, with regards to the ministerial changes or the cabinet changes that we were expecting, those were not in the main demands, so which proves that they're still resorting to these cosmetic changes to silence people. Like, we are expecting in the next couple of days to see ministers in the new cabinet that from Tahrir Square, like some of my friends might turn out to be ministers, so some of the youth of the revolution. Yes, this is a positive step, but this is a different step from the initial demands that were set forth for this sit-in and the same demands of the revolution.
Right, Rana, you are the spokesperson for the Revolution Youth Movement, and probably you have been interacting with people even in the streets while you are in Tahrir or anywhere else, while you're protesting here and there. So how do you see the feedback from the people now after the revolution and after the several Fridays, the sit-ins and the protests, different Fridays? Do you think that people are really recognizing the gravity of the situation? They do understand what are the priorities for the demands? How can they prioritize their demands after the revolution? How do you see it? Describe it to us.
I think the priority for Egyptian civilians, Egyptian people now, or Egyptian society now is first salary, maximum range and minimum range. It's the first priority. And second priority is security. People want to feel security. People want to feel like they back again to life. And by the way, they are supporters of the revolution. They are support the strike in Tahrir Square now, and they support revolution. Yes, not against them.
Right.
They are satisfied with the revolution again and again and again.
They understand the situation. They are supportive of what you're doing now.
Yeah, yeah. Egyptian society now have different mentality than the old regime mentality. They know that that the youth want to make change, want to make Egypt forward again, want to end the corruption, want to make security, want to make security come again to the street.
But actually, if I may slightly intervene, yes, I totally agree that people this time, for this sit-in, are a lot more receptive of our cause. Like, there are a lot more people that are more receptive. However, there is still a large segment of the population who, because of the way the media has been portraying us, and because of the way the officials have been portraying us over the last week, lots of people think that we are the cause of all problems, that we are the crazy youth who want to change everything overnight. So sadly, because we are being portrayed like this by both the media and by the authorities, by those in power, there is still a big segment of the population who are not happy with what we're doing because they don't know what we're doing. They're just depending on what they hear.
But you know, Noor, I'm sorry. Noor, I see it, what you said is a positive something, because people when just, you know, curious, so they going to Tahrir Square to see, is this revolution, is this youth really revolution youth, or
well, before, because we're running out of time, Noor, I want to ask you a question. Now we're coming up against very important parliamentary and presidential elections. Now, how are the people in Tahrir, political activists and human rights activists such as yourself, how are you going to tackle such elections? What are your views? What are the efforts that are going to be made for the participation during these elections?
Okay, we need to make something extremely clear. Before we start thinking about parliamentary elections or presidential elections, there are prerequisites. The prerequisites are in the demands that have been set forth, the demands that I stated earlier. We cannot start thinking about such complex procedures for fair and free presidential and parliamentary elections when all of these demands have still not been met, because this will just eventually lead to inadequate elections. Hence, the people in the square are holding on very strongly to their beliefs and to their demands, so that the upcoming parliamentary and presidential elections are as free and as fair as possible. This is how we are being prepared for it, by holding on to our principles.
Right. On that note, Noor Ayman, the human rights activist, and Rana Farouk, the spokesperson for the Revolution Youth Movement, would like to thank you very much for coming over. Wish you the best of luck with all what you're doing, and